So everybody, thanks so much for listening. If you are listening to us for the first time, please like, subscribe, and share. If you're listening to us on a platform where you can't do that, please tell your friends, your family members. And we have an exciting podcast, so we hope you share this and get this around. We have, excuse me, sorry about that. We have Lorna Greyling on, and she is on talking about her new book, Kidnapped, and it's a really impressive story. And I'm really excited to talk to her about it. We're also going to talk about mental health issues and many other things in this interview. So, Lorna, thanks so much for coming on. Greatly appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Wow, it's such an honor for me to be here with you, and I really appreciate the time. It's exciting, to use a story that should have been the worst thing in my life. And yet I've got it, and I can give people hope with it and change lives with it. And for me, that is just such an honor, and I'm just so happy and blessed by it.
If you want to learn more about Lorna, go to LornaGreyling.com, and we will put that in the description box. And we hope to have her on again. But let's start the first interview before we even think about the other ones. So, Lorna, can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and just about Kidnapped in general and how that book got started?
Yeah. So I am a mother of 3 teenagers. Hectic, I tell you. I have 3 teenage daughters, and I joke a lot. I'm like, I know now why certain insects eat their young, it's to stop them from becoming teenagers. I'm positive of that. But nevertheless, we have lots of fun as well. And I've been married to my incredible husband for 21 years.
Wow.
So I've often considered divorce, but we could never afford it, So we stuck it out. So that's quite awesome. Worked out well. And I actually am in Florida, and I recently came from South Africa. And how I ended up in the USA is actually quite amazing. It's even more amazing than the book itself. But I was an entrepreneur. I owned the biggest wellness center, aesthetic clinic, and day spa in an area called Melville in South Africa. And it was a very posh area. They used to, all the actors and famous people live there. It's like Hollywood, but in South Africa, so it's much smaller. And then COVID struck. Everything just went haywire, as for so many other people. And my husband was unable to work for 18 months. He was at home. He's a sound engineer for big corporate sport events, and he traveled internationally. And because nobody was allowed to travel out of South Africa, he had absolutely no work. All the sport events closed down and wasn't being broadcasted. And so one thing led to another, and we just lost everything, literally everything we owned, everything we worked for 25 years. I worked building my business, starting from nothing to where I was, and I found myself in a place where I literally had nothing left. We had lost our home, our cars, everything we owned. My family had to be split up. My husband and 2 of my older kids had to go and stay with a friend of his because they were able to accommodate 3 of us. We are a large family. And I lived with my youngest, with my mom and my dad. And we split up. And literally one night I was sleeping and I woke up, and it's a very bizarre experience. When you wake up, and I was so lucid and so awake, and it was this holy presence in my room, and I just felt God telling me I should fly to the USA. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get there? Because everything is locked down. I don't have any money. I don't have, how am I going to do this? And long story short, huge miracle upon miracle upon miracle, I came to the USA beyond all the circumstances, above the fact that we weren't able to fly directly. We had to take a detour, and everything just flowed into each other. Then, as I needed to fly, I just got money from a friend. She just, gave me some money. I was able to sell a portion of my business that paid out, and we had enough money to fly. We found a route through the Maldives that was open. We did that. I could never really see what I was doing, but as I was stepping out in faith, things just kind of flowed into each other, and I ended up in the USA with the only thing that I had left, which is my story. And it's kidnapped. My husband was kidnapped in 2010 by 55 rebel forces. And he was actually working on a sport production at the time. And they were in Nigeria. It's a continent or country in Africa. And they just finished a sport game, and they were on their way home to the airport to fly back to South Africa. And they actually went through a roadblock. And in Nigeria, there's lots of police roadblocks. So it's a general thing, you kind of drive through and there's lots of police presence there, and they stopped. So he just figured, it's probably another roadblock. And then a guy came to his window and just hit the window very hard. And he told him to get out. And he thought, no, he's not getting out. And then the next minute he knew it was just all these guys in their crew bus pulling him out, pulling all the things off his body, taking everything he's got. And as they were dragging him to a car where they were ready to push him in, they walked past some of his crew members they were lying on their faces, on their stomachs on the floor, as the rebels were standing around them with guns against their heads. And the one guy's phone rang in his pocket, and the rebel next to him literally just turned around and shot an entire magazine into his body, and shot his friend as well next to him in his leg. And they shot literally until they could hear the bone break. And then they grabbed my husband, dragged him, pushed him in a car together with some other hostages as well. And they started speeding down the roads with they had about 10 hostages at this stage, 55 rebels that were dressed in military uniforms. And it was like a war, because then the police had discovered that there's been this issue of people being kidnapped. And they started putting up real police blockages, So then the rebels came to these police blockades, or however we would call that, and they would shoot, and the police would be shooting back, and it's literally an absolute war zone, and the bullets would be flying all past him into the car, all around him. People would get killed and shot. And just the fact that he got to the place where they were holding him ransom for the rest of the duration of the time that they had him there was an absolute miracle. It was absolutely amazing.
So I just want to interrupt quickly. I apologize. No. So when he was, being held hostage, how did you find out about it? What was going through your mind throughout these times? I mean, obviously, you didn't know if he was going to be alive or dead, how this was going to pan out. Obviously, some of these hostage situations, they're looking for money. They could be looking for drugs. You don't even know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually such an amazing thing. The morning of the kidnapping, I had a friend who had sent me a message on my cell phone, a text, and I read the message, and it said, I get a lot of messages from people. I mean, we all do. Our phones are busy, and just sometimes we read it, sometimes we kind of pass it over, and it's like, running, I'm getting the kids, grabbing them, getting them to school. They were a lot smaller at that stage, so you can imagine, single mom. My husband went away for months at a time, sometimes on work productions. I had all these businesses going on. It was hectic life. So I was always running, in the running. And I got this message from her, and she sent me Psalm 91. And it said, literally, God will send his angels to take care of you, and none of your family there will be no harm to any of your family. And it was weird, because I'd read the Psalm before. I trust in God for everything, but you know how it goes. Sunday, you read the scriptures and it's like, oh yeah, I know this, but that morning I literally stopped in the passage as I was running with the kids in my arms, the phone in my hand, doing a million things at the same time. And I read these words and it just took root in my spirit. And I just thought, yes, I received this. At the time, it was actually the World Cup soccer that was in South Africa. And there was a lot of rumors about kids being kidnapped and, you know, people had to be careful and blah, blah, blah. So I thought, this is for my kids, obviously, you know, but I just took those words and I'm like, yes, nothing will happen to my family. So the minute I found out about his kidnapping, it was actually in the afternoon, the kids and I, we were swimming. It was very hot. I was already in my pajamas. I was cooking food and, you know, looking terrible. My hair was all wet. I had no makeup on. And the next minute, the whole family rocked up at my house, my sister-in-law, friends, family members. It was like a whole entourage of people coming to my house. And first thing I was like, oh my gosh, I look terrible, you know, always on the looks, right? What does looks matter at a time like that? But somehow it was like, I don't know what they were doing there. I'm like, oh, I look so terrible, you know. Anyway, and I just saw their faces and I thought, no, something else is very, very wrong. They can see the stress, the tension, they've been crying. And my sister-in-law just grabbed me and she said, Lorna, they've taken Nick. And she was crying and she was holding me. And I was just like dumbstruck. I'm like, what does she mean? Where did they take him? Like, where? I don't understand. You know, I was completely like, and then I just saw how serious this was and, you know, the information that was starting to come through and that nobody knows where he is. Is he alive? Is he dead? What has happened? They had bits and pieces of the event, but nothing real or concrete. And immediately I sat down and I thought of that scripture that I got that morning, those words. And it just made sense to me. And I just thought, no, I'm not going to hang on to the fear of what if he's dead? Where is he? Is he alive? Is he dead? I'm going to believe these words and have faith until I know for sure that he's dead. And then I'm going to believe with all my heart that God will get me through it. Whatever is going to happen, whatever is going to be in front of me, I'm going to have the strength and I'm going to have the faith to survive this, to get through this. And it sounds like, you know, oh my gosh, you know, she's so spiritual. Like, I don't know. I just had that, I don't know, like a sound mind to know that at that moment I had to choose that. It's like a conscious choice to have faith.
Well, it seems like your faith in Christ helped you, you know, kind of open up to the positivity aspect of your life. So even though these bad things happen where you lost your house, you lost everything you owned, you know, your husband got kidnapped, he faced death face to face, in plain English, you still stayed positive. There's people all around the country, you know, we watch it on TV, we see it in social media, extremely negative. I mean, they just, you know, want people to be at the bottom of the barrel, the way they talk and the way they put things on TV. How do we get rid of the negative people in our life and bring more positivity in our life? Seems like it's a little harder than it looks.
Yeah, it's quite difficult, you know. Sometimes you can get rid of people, you know, in your life, and you can choose your friends. And it's very important to choose who you hang out with, because negative people bring you down. I think, you know, if you can choose certain people in your life, do choose positive influence, people who have positive mindsets. But the worst enemy, in my opinion, is most often ourselves, our own mindsets. Because, you know, I mean, I've been a Christian I'm literally fell in love with God in a very severe circumstance in my life. Again, I was very depressed. I didn't know God. I didn't, I wasn't really a Christian or a believer or anything. And I had lots of things happening in my life at that stage. And I wanted to commit suicide. I wanted to take my own life. And it was, again, a very aha and wow moment in my life where I just think someone else must have been praying for me at that stage. But I literally had this intervention, this godly intervention, where I had a meeting with God in my living room at that moment. And I just met Jesus. The love that I felt in that moment just healed me completely. It was like electricity entering in my body. I felt like I had gone to heaven and come back down, and everything was different. Like my eyes had opened. I could see things completely different all of a sudden. And I had that experience, and that experience changed my entire outlook, especially before the kidnapping. And I think that was why I was able to get through this kidnapping with so much ease. Well, if I say ease, I mean, there were moments when my husband, they made me listen to him. They phoned me. Literally what would happen is the rebels would give him a phone. They would be torturing him, taking off his clothes, wanting to cut off his arms and his head. And I had to listen to these beatings, the sounds of these blades, these big whips going against his body, this like a clapping sound, and this screaming. He was screaming at the top of his lungs for me to help. He would scream, help me, please, please. He would be begging for his life, and he would tell me, they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me. And then they would shoot literally and kill the phone, and I wouldn't know whether he's dead or alive. And those moments would be agonizing and very stressful, and obviously those things affect you. Right. But seconds later, I would again get to a place where I would choose, all right, what am I going to choose? Am I going to allow this fear that I've just experienced to rule me and to completely overwhelm me? Or am I going to hang on to hope and faith? It's like a split-second choice that we each get throughout our entire days to make, either to hang on to fear and anxiety and stress, or to hang on to the hope and the faith that maybe this is good, maybe everything will be fine, maybe we will get him out, maybe he'll be alive. And long story short, we did get him out, which is another miracle. I mean, it's absolutely incredible story. It's like reading a movie. You'll have to read the book. It's amazing. Right. But later in my life, I didn't do this. Actually, I was still a Christian. I was still going to church. I was actually a public speaker in, traveling all around South Africa. And slowly but surely, I kind of didn't choose faith and hope in the small things daily. And when we started to lose our homes, our income, everything, I got mad at God. I was mad. I was like, well, this is so unfair. Like, why is this happening to me? Why are my other Christian friends, things are going so well for them. They would pray for something and it would happen. Yeah. I look at my life. What is going on? Am I doing something wrong? And I started to get mad, and I got to a place where I realized, look, I can't go on like this. I'm just devastated, depressed. This is not fine. How did I get through the kidnapping, so well, with so much faith and grace, and literally almost no trauma or the effects of trauma afterwards? But now things are going wrong in my life and I feel traumatized. I'm depressed and I feel terrible, and I feel like I can't cope. I can't mother my kids. I can't be anything that I'm supposed to be, because I'm always tired. I always want to cry, just so fearful. And I realized, but I actually had so much unforgiveness in my heart at that stage towards God and towards people in my life, towards my country, that stopped us from working, that we had no compensation in South Africa for COVID, no money coming in. They locked us down, but there was no, and I was mad. about that. And I realized, all right, I'm going to have to start to forgive everything in my heart that is causing me to feel anger and unforgiveness. And I did. It took me a few days, because some of the things we don't always realize, but that release from forgiveness, was so amazing. And then I started to think, okay, what did I do during the kidnapping that was so profound, that made me conquer these horrible things in my life? And that is that choice, that split-second choice between faith and fear. That is a powerful, powerful, powerful thing. I'll tell you a small, short story. I mean, when I arrived, just to make it more practical, because a lot of people don't have a kidnapping or losing their homes or anything like that. They just get to a place in their lives, maybe where they feel like, I don't know what's going on with me, but I am just sad and fearful and depressed, and I have no hope. But again, it's coming back to those small choices. When we came to the USA, we were in Florida, and I'm not used to, putting my kid on a bus and off she goes. In South Africa, we take them to school. There's no public buses or anything like that. And it's very dangerous. It's a very dangerous place. The crime rate is extremely high.
Wow.
So now I had a few ordeals in South Africa. I've been hijacked a few times. They've broken into our homes. We had armed robberies, home invasions, lots of things happened to us. So, we have that. I have that in the back of my mind. And so I put my child on the school bus, because I didn't have a car or anything when I got here. I was living with a friend. And as I put her on the bus, you know how life works. I got this Amber Alert. I didn't even know what it was. Now I know, okay, there's Amber Alerts in America. It's quite amazing. So I got this thing on my phone, and it says child kidnapped. And, it's got this whole thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just put my child on a bus. This can't be happening to me. And immediately I decided, knowing what I know, I decided I'm not going to be fearful. My child is going to be fine. I'm going to walk to this bus stop today, and I'm going to fetch her, and she's going to be on this bus. I believe that. And I chose that. And throughout the day, every so often, I had this thought, but what if she's not okay? What if she doesn't? What if something happens to her? Because she also didn't have a phone at the time, nothing. And again, I had to choose, well, what if she's fine? What if she's happy as can be at school, and I'm wasting all this time worrying about her, because there's nothing really I can do. I can drive to the school maybe and go and see if she's okay, or I can, I didn't have a car at the time, so there was really nothing I could do but have faith that she's going to be fine, or waste my time and be scared the whole day. And being scared tires you out. I mean, by the end of the day, I'm exhausted being scared. And I just kept on choosing. What if she's fine? What if I go to the bus stop and she's there? I mean, what if there's no problem? And it, gives you a whole different feeling. Obviously, I got a lot of work done that day. I walked to the bus stop. She was fine. There was nothing wrong with her. She knew nothing about any Amber Alert or anything. I would have wasted a whole day just being scared for no reason whatsoever. And a lot of times that is what we do. Without realizing it, we allow negative thoughts in our minds to control us and to overpower us. And we can't understand, like, why are we feeling so depressed? But it's because we don't choose actively to hang on to the positive thoughts and faith. And even if you don't believe in God, even if it's still having faith and believing in the best outcome will affect your life. You will have more energy. You will just end up being a much, much better person. I speak to Christians and believers all the time that are completely down and out and depressed, because there are simple principles in our lives. If we don't practice them, if we don't do it, it won't have any effect in our life, right? It's in the doing.
No, I agree. So again, if you want to find more about Lorna, you just go to www.lornagreyling.com. Again, the book is Kidnapped. as you saw it on the screen as she was speaking. You could get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever books are sold. Definitely check it out and get the book. You've heard the story right from the horse's mouth. I think it's worth definitely buying. So thanks so much for your time. I'm looking forward to doing this again and talking about the other crazy extreme stories in your life.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you. That would be
Lorna.
fantastic. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.